That is a 2017 Subaru Outback. If somebody ever lied to you that it lost its credibility because of a CVT, well, they lied. Welcome to another exciting episode of Conversation Kanisa, and today we are here to set one record straight. Did the Subaru Outback lose its credibility because of the CVT? This episode has been made possible by KDG Import. So if you're looking for a car or you're planning to buy a car, give them a visit along Gong Road opposite Prestige, and they'll be glad to hook you up with this and many other cars. At this point again, I'll remind you, sit back, relax, subscribe, because it's just beginning to get hot. In the Kenyan market space right now and globally at the same time, there is a big demand for SUVs, crossover SUVs for that matter. So in this category we are looking at the Forester, the RAV4, the CX5 and many other, the CRV, that fall in that category. But there's something else that the Subaru Outback provides, something that has been there for a very long time, something that the Subaru Outback and all the other cars that sit in its competition still provide to date, and that is a car that will give you both what an SUV will give you, or a crossover SUV, and at the same time gives you something more of a car-like feel to drive and just to go out for adventure. This is the fifth generation of the Subaru Outback with the code name BS, and Subaru has this thing with their numbers, BS, BH, you know that's how they do their naming nomenclature. But from the outlook, this Subaru Outback looks quite interesting. Easy, not intimidating, not attractive. It's a car that sits, you can't really call it attractive or cute, neither can you call it ugly. It's just, it gives you a good, confident vibe, bold and subtle to the look. Easy. The grille again gives you the vibes of a legacy, and this thing has been going on with the Subaru. I think every automaker, just like Mazda, they're trying to create a similar look at the front. So most Subarus right now, you will see them coming with a similar look at the front, and that's what you get. A blacked out bumper that gives you the confidence to attack all your adventure off-road lines. And something else that I love is the retro style of the fog lights. Big and just intimidating to the eyes. If you've been on the Subaru lineup for a while now, you know that we had these on the early versions of the Impreza, and it looked quite awesome. I don't know what's happening with automakers right now, but we've seen Toyota also coming back with a retro style on their new Land Cruiser Prado, which they don't want it to be called a Prado anymore, but you'll see some cues of the retro style in terms of body shape and all that, and that is something else that again Subaru are doing on this car, and it's nice, looks nice. Let's move to the side profile and talk about what exactly do you get when you buy the Subaru Outback BS. One thing I'll tell you for sure is this car is quite long. Actually, the size of this car from there all the way to the end, it's almost similar or close to size to what you'll get in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's how long this car is, and that provides a very serious value proposition when it comes to the interior, because it is quite special. But you have the Outback badge there, and it just looks nice and easy. Again, something else, when you're buying an SUV, you want a tall car. So from here all the way to, you assume the taller the car, the more comfortable you feel inside. I'm here to tell you the Outback gives you something interesting. This is something you'll get that looks like a car. It feels like a car, it drives the car. It's carved like a car. You're not feeling like you're in a huge, tall car like maybe a CX5, which makes you sit like a robot. We'll talk about that later. But this is a carved car that goes all the way to the rear. And something interesting is what you get with the ground clearance. This car has a better ground clearance than an X-Trail for that matter. So this is 8.7 inches, close to 9 inches of ground clearance on a car that happens to act as an SUV but feels more like a car. Quite interesting. And before we talk about practicality at the rear, let me talk about the suspension setup. Now, the Subaru Outback has what we call a lifted suspension setup. So the suspension height is quite long. As you can see, you have a very big gap between the tire. And this tire is quite big because it's rim size 17 and still with a very nice profile of a tire, but you still have space just to articulate and give you the nice comfort feel when you're attacking your off-road or adventure roads. So let's look at how the Subaru Outback looks at the rear and how practical is it. So at the rear you get your normal Subaru Outback badge to just remind you that this is an Outback and the symmetrical all-wheel drive system. I'll talk about this when we tackle the engine and transmission at the front, but again, just confirm that the rear of this car looks quite awesome. When we go down, again, you get your black rear bumper. That again reminds you that this car is ready to tackle any adventure. And if you zoom out a little bit, just look at how this car is high up the ground. Imagine from here all the way to here. There's nothing as practical as the Subaru Outback. If you're considering to get your conventional RAV4 or CRV or maybe a Mazda 6.5, this has everything and more than you'll get on any of that car. And I will tell you about more of this when we sit inside the cabin and drive this car. But meanwhile, let's talk about practicality. Wow! This again is another strength where the Outback outshines all your practical SUVs or crossover SUVs. So what you get here is 512 liters of boot space, and that is if the second row of seat is up. If I drop the second row of seats, which can be done again from the rear side, and it splits in a 3/4 split, so it drops down. It gives you 1,800 liters of practical boot space. This is what we call a lorry. Look at that, and it's quite flat, so it gives you everything you need in a practical car. And one interesting thing is you don't have a notch here, so lifting your cargo in and out will be as easy as 1, 2, 3. There's another storage just below this cover, but it's something that you can't put in something serious, so just know there's an extra storage. But it doesn't come with a full spare wheel though. Again, people are cutting down on weight, manufacturers are cutting down on weight, so most cars that you're importing right now from Japan, you will not get it with a spare wheel tire. Keeping on with the practicality aspect of the Subaru Outback, which you can see, I'm sitting like I'm in a pickup which has seats inside. It's comfortable, it's huge, it is spacious. I think if there is a car that can fit 7 people, this should be the one. Like, it has enough space to have a third row of seats without a problem. But before I talk about that, let me show you. So Subaru has made it possible to have 2 things on the back seats for those ones who want to enjoy the drive quality and the comfort of the Subaru Outback. Not only can you drop your seats from the rear, they've also made it possible. You have a clip at the top here and you can bring this seat down. Quite interesting. But as if that is not enough, they have also made it possible for you to recline these seats. There is something here that you can push up and now you can sit upright to enjoy the adventure. Then if you want to sleep kidogo, you can. Interesting. So let's talk about practicality and how this car feels to be at the rear. Look, I'm 6'2". Again, I'll remind you, 6'2". Wing, wing. You watch ujinga, eh? Okay. I'm seated here and you can see practicality. This seat is stretched all the way to the end. I'm assuming there's a tall person seated here again. And look at how spacious my legroom is. I am quite comfortable. The headroom is huge. I think you can fit here. Is there something like 7'2"? Okay, 7'2" will still do well. But this is a practical, spacious place. Not only is that so, but you also get heated seats, both at the rear. Cloth, black interior. I know you can get these with leather interior, which are perforated, but they're heated and cooled, but you don't get ventilation on this package of the car. Unless you're getting the premium or the limited, because that is one of the trim that you'll get a bit of more extras. Again, it depends with which market you're buying this car from. But practicality and space, this is a car you sit in and you enjoy the drive quality. Your cup holders, every automaker is doing this, so there's nothing much to talk about this, but at least you get one. If you're not carrying a third person or a lift, at least you're having this. And then you have your transmission tunnel that runs all the way to the rear, and this carries all the necessary things around the AWD symmetrical all-wheel drive system that the Subaru Outback offers as standard across all the trims. So let's check out what you get at the front of the Subaru Outback. For 2.95 million Kenya shillings, that is what you'll be paying KDG if you decide to go and buy this one, Subaru Outback. And what you get is quite an interesting package. Just for clarity, this is the basic version of the Subaru Outback. I think this is just, it's called the Subaru Outback. It's not the premium, it's not the limited, it's just Subaru Outback. And what you get, again, these are things that will cross all over to the rest of the other ones with a bit of extras like a sunroof, you know, leather seats and all that. But what you get is soft touch plastic at the top, and they have cheated here just like Toyota does. You get hard plastic at the bottom, and that theme continues all the way to the door. So you have very nice soft leather again here with soft plastic at the top, but ukienda huko chini ni ile plastic enye unagwara. And I understand, because whatever you'll be doing with this car, in case you want to do it, it's something that want a bit of abuse, and you want something that can withstand that abuse. But again, it's a car you can daily drive, it's a car you can enjoy driving on the road, and so I understand that decision and choice. Your seats again, cloth black, quite nice, quite comfortable. They tuck you in, they make you feel comfortable, and they're heated and cooled at the same time. You can get this again with leather, as I said before, perforated, but you don't get ventilated on the Subaru Outback. Something else I need to talk about is technology. So this car is rated 5-star in terms of safety ratings, and that is something that Subaru has been doing for the recent past. I think since 2010 they have been building cars that are quite safe on the road, and that is courtesy of the eyesight. So you have two cameras here that help you do all the necessary technological issues that this car provides. Things like lane assist, and they're all here. Lane assist, front collision mitigation. Hizo zote, the Subaru Outback comes packed in all that, from the basic all the way to the top trim. And the good thing with having these ones here is the good and the bad. So the good is, in case you knock anything pale mbele, you are not affecting, you're not paying a huge bill to take care of these cameras or this system that have been installed on the windscreen. But the bad side is, in case you get dirt on the windscreen, or in case you have problems around your windscreen, if you're going to replace your windscreen again, it requires a bit of alignment to have these sensors to work. I think guys who've had their windscreen replaced on any Subaru that has eyesight, you know what I'm talking about. There have been issues around these sensors working the way they're supposed to work, and that is something that you need to know and be aware of when you're buying this particular car. So let's talk about what you get here as the instrument cluster and the technology that you get around the Subaru Outback. It's an analog cluster, both the tachometer and the speedometer, but at the middle you get a digital cluster unit that displays all the necessary things that you need when you're driving this car, from the trip computer, what speed you're driving at, the average fuel economy, and all that. But the gearbox, which is a CVT, gives you this gear shifter, but something that Subaru has made it possible is you can shift this to D and put it to manual, but you can't shift it using the gear lever. So it's not a Tiptronic gear shifter. What they have made it is you can shift manually using your paddle shifters. And again, I know guys will laugh and say, oh, in a CVT, you know, paddle shifters are the most useless thing on a CVT. Again, this is a programmed CVT, so it can give you the actual feel of driving an automatic car. And I think Subaru going a step further to just make sure that they give you a bit of that driving feel. To me, it's something that comes quite appreciated and well commended for. So something else that I'll probably mention is this steering wheel is heated, and you can adjust it this way, telescopic, and you can also put it up and down, and again that adds on the practicality. You can get a stock infotainment system, but this one comes with an aftermarket one which works and makes everything function well. It's a simple minimalistic car that you don't get a lot of. It's a car that drives and performs what they say it does. Simple and clear. Something else that I want to mention is practicality. So you get an awesome, huge glove compartment. You get another storage here that you can put in your phone or your wallets if you want. Something else I don't like is I have to move this gear shifter for you to understand is they have a place to put your phones, but seemingly none of my phones fits here, so I can't put it like this, so I have to put it like that, and one has to go on top of the other. Sijui kama masimu zao ni mulikamu hizi zote watu wa Japan, I don't know. I've been struggling with every cam reviewing to put, you know, the storage compartment for phones. Apparently none of them is fitting. And you have the X mode. The X mode button is the all-wheel drive button that basically primes the engine, the transmission, and the symmetrical all-wheel drive system to work to help you maneuver those difficult terrains. Unapanda a steep hill, you're descending a steep hill, or you have a challenging scenario, maybe could be snow, could be mud. The button that you need is the X mode. It combines the elements of the engine, the transmission, and the all-wheel drive system, and it just keeps it at the best maximum power and torque output to make sure that you maneuver and get your Outback out of any scenario. And as we head to the front to check out the engine and the transmission that this car runs, so that we can demystify, did Subaru lose it when they took this car and put in a CVT transmission? Because you love adventure, amekuwekea hapa mahali ya kuweka goggles. Ni goggles ama ni googles? Ama ni spectacles? I don't know. I just know you can put it here. Let's check out the engine and transmission. What engine options do you get on the Subaru Outback? So you only get 4 engine options. 1 is a diesel and 3 are petrols. And here is where we need to be very keen. So if you want to buy this car tropicalized, or maybe you are planning to ship this car from South Africa, which is another place where they have the assembly of the Subaru Outback, then you will definitely get this car in the previous engine, which was the EJ25. It's still being produced up to now on this platform of the BS all the way to 2024. So if you're buying this car from South Africa, high chances are what you'll be getting here is an EJ25 2500cc 4-cylinder, and that engine had its share of good things and bad things as well. But if you're importing this from Japan, then what you're getting here is what we call the FB25, which again, it's a revised or an improved version of the EJ25. 2500cc of engine displacement, putting out 170 HP and 236 Newton meters of torque, which is not quite interesting if you ask me. But for what this car is meant to do, I think that is quite commendable. It's quite enough. If you want more power and you feel the FB25 is not giving you what you want, Subaru have made it possible to have an engine that is more powerful, and that is the EZ36. So the EZ36 is again a boxer engine, but it's a flat 6. Unlike this particular one that is here, which is an FB25, which has 4 cylinders but 2500cc of engine displacement, the H6, which is a flat 6, has 6 cylinders. And the boxer engine is quite commendable. It sits quite low on this car, and that gives this car a very good and confident center of gravity, and this gives you the confidence to tackle all the terrains. So just take the curves, and your off-road adventure is well sorted. There's one diesel engine that you get on this. I think it's a 2-liter diesel engine, which is a turbocharged, but you won't get it in the Japanese market. Or maybe, I don't know, is it Canada or Australia where you can get the diesel engine option? I don't know why Subaru didn't put the same engine you get on the Subaru Forester XT, the 2000cc turbocharged engine on this. I think it will be an awesome engine to have as an option on the Subaru Outback. But for now, that's what you get. So what are the known problems that you get when you buy this particular engine, the FB25? There have been issues around oil consumption, which is an issue that was carried all the way from the former engine, was the EJ25. And again, just to be clear, it's not really a problem. You understand? Because most cars right now are being produced in the market, their engines consume some oil to some element. What will be alarming, what will be problematic is if it does excessive oil consumption. So by a slight degree, this engine will consume. So by the time if you put in, let's say, 6.5 liters of engine oil during the service, at the next service interval, do not be surprised if you get 6 or 6.2 liters of engine oil from this particular car, because at some point it will consume some little oil. But if it consumes excessive oil, then that is where you have a problem, and that is courtesy of poor maintenance, of course, and just having this car run on bad quality oil, which at the end of the day will cause those kind of problems. The second problem is because of the design of the Boxer engine, again, cylinder number 4, which is this one that I'm looking at. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one, it gets poor cooling, and that tends to bring what you call a sudden knock. So if you are going to check out this car and you hear a knocking sound on cylinder number 4, this is a problem that was carried all the way from the EJ25 as well, and you have that knocking sound on cylinder number 4, then know that is a problem you're dealing with, and there's no shortcut around it. Actually, Subaru recommends that you have to do an engine rebuild or simply buy a replacement, and this engine is not cheap. And take note, that is a design flaw from the manufacturer, so there's nothing you can do about it. But they claim if you do good maintenance and you run this car quite well, that should not be a problem you should experience. Maybe from 250,000 kilometers or maybe 300,000 kilometers, then you should expect maybe a possibility of that happening. Paired to the FB25 is what Subaru calls the Lineatronic CVT. It has been a debate. Most car enthusiasts, and I think these are guys who love driving, there's a very tiny line between being a car reviewer, a journalist, and telling people what is actually right and good for them, versus reviewing a car as a car enthusiast and a person who loves whatever they love and they want that to be implemented on each car. So this is where I will digress and go a little bit on the side. I'm telling you that this car, or the transmission on this car, serves the purpose. It's not something short. It's not something that you'll expect. But if you're a car enthusiast or someone who loves performance, of course, this will anger you. You will love it to come with maybe a 6-speed manual or maybe an automatic transmission. But Subaru have made it possible to have a Lineatronic CVT on this. And the advantage of having the Lineatronic CVT on the FB25 or the Subaru Outback is because it provides two value propositions. One is fuel economy. Now, how does it give you good fuel economy? Because this particular engine, on paper, Subaru claims it can give you an average of 12 kilometers to a liter. I can tell you I'm running a 2-liter Volvo S80 that gives me lower than 9 kilometers to a liter. So for a 2,500 cc of engine displacement, giving you 11 to 12 kilometers to a liter, that is commendable, and that is because of the Lineatronic CVT. And it does that by making sure that the car stays in the maximum power with the least amount of engine rotation. So unapata pale RPM yako kwa 2000, but gari ina harness the power that you need, so you do not need to rev that much. Something special that you'll also get on the Lineatronic CVT, unlike many CVTs, is this one is driven by a chain. I know the Jatco CVT from Nissan is driven by a belt, so you understand. So these are a bit robust, and that comes in handy when you're pushing the Outback to tackle your off-road and adventure terrains. So let me drive this car on places where it's meant to be driven, and then again take it on an on-road drive experience and share to you, does it live up to its expectations? One key feature that I love is the suspension setup. I'm coming from tackling this terrain with the Fortuner, and I can tell you, driving this car, I'm missing nothing out of it. Nothing. It feels like a proper off-road car. I know it has an all-wheel drive system and not a full 4-wheel drive system, but it does a good job in terms of the suspension setup, like the long lifted springs. They do a good job in terms of soaking up all the imperfections on the road, the potholes, the holes, the rough patches. Like, this car is just cruising. There's nothing more I can tell you about it apart from, if you choose this car to go with it anywhere per se, I think it's a car that will make sure you get there and come back alive and solid. Easy. It makes this rough terrain look like I'm doing nothing. Wow, Outback. This is an off-road terrain, guys. I'm cruising at 80 kilometers per hour. It's an off-road terrain. I'm not lying. Yeah, it is. Look. Ooh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition on an on-road experience and just share, does the Outback live up to expectations in comparison to the competition, that is the Audi A6 all-road, the V90 cross-country, and even the Passat, all-track. Does it live up to competition, or does it lose when it comes to an on-road experience? So how does it feel to drive the Subaru Outback on the road? So there's something I don't like, and I'm going to confess, it is the road noise. And this is something that Subaru has been doing for a while with most of their cars. Apparently, the build quality around just shielding the external noise into getting into the cabin is quite poor. So that is one instant thing you feel. But in terms of the driving dynamics, it's a simple car. Of course, it's not a car you're going to race with. It's not a sports car. So do not expect magic out of it. And because you're trying to hit a good fuel economy number, I presume whoever is driving this car, unless you're the police, then you should be racing this car down. The suspension feels good for on-road handling and on-road driving. And again, when you're taking the corners, the symmetrical all-wheel drive system just makes the magic happen. Stable, planted down on the ground, but of course, for the size of this car, utaskia kidogo a bit of body roll. Like right now, I'm just going into a corner at 60. Yeah, there you go. You just seen it. So it's a big car. It's a huge machine. So of course, you'll expect body roll here and there. Away from that, it's a superb car. It's a car that you want to drive and just feel relaxed. It's not a car you want to race, no sumbuane na watu. It's a car you sit in, choose a destination, and just take it slow. And whenever the destination provides for a challenge or a place where you can go in and discover adventure, then this is the car you want to take in there. I wouldn't take the CX-5. I wouldn't take the RAV4. I know it can do a bit of what this car does, but this car makes me feel confident to drive it anywhere, in any place. And the fact that it gives me a car feel in terms of the driving experience. When I say a car feel, so the driving posture of a CX-5 or these crossover SUVs are, you sit, your legs are straight down, and then you're driving. You understand? So it gives you that upright posture. But this particular car, the Outback, it gives you a laid-back car feel approach. It's like you're driving a normal car. Maybe you're driving an Audi A5 Sportback. That's the kind of feel you get when you're driving this car. And that summarizes the aspect of the Subaru Outback being an almost complete adventure car. So how will the Outback perform against their competition? That is the Passat all-track, A6 all-road, V90 cross-country. In terms of luxury package and the options that you get, of course, those will come superior. And again, when it comes to on-road handling and on-road driving experience, all those that I've mentioned will come way ahead of this car. This car cannot beat any of that when it comes to this particular driving experience. And you just branch off the on-road and get to a challenging terrain, then this is where this car wins. Let me do 0 to 100 and see how does this car perform from 0 to 100. Is it a car that the police enjoy chasing criminals in? That we are about to find out. So I have my draggy already set up and the screen recording, so it's time to confirm how does this car really perform 0 to 100. So I'm going to put her in sports shop, make a pale drive, and then I'm going to launch this car. 1, 2, 3. Okay. At 100, I think I've already gotten there. So something immediately I feel when I'm driving this car. I think at this point is where maybe I will agree with people who love the driving thrill, because the CVT wine is just bananas. So I can feel the CVT wine again, considering that Subaru did a very bad job when it comes to cushioning you as a driver or the passenger in this car from excessive road noise or excessive sound from the environment, and that includes the CVT and the engine. So we are having a lot of noises coming to the cabin. So how did we perform 0 to 100 in 12.73 seconds, which is, can I call it decent? It's there. It's average. It's something you'll get on any car. We've done 0 to 100 before on an Audi 2800cc FSI Audi A6, and we got around 12 seconds. So I can call it a pass. But again, it's not a performance car. So let's do value for money and just confirm what is the value proposition if you made a choice to buy the Subaru Outback against its competition, and furthermore, things like Harrier, CX-5, RAV4 and the CRV. I bet you'll want to listen to this. Let's talk about value for money. Why would you buy the Subaru Outback at 2.95 million Kenya shillings? And that is for the basic one, this particular one that you can get from KDG. If you buy a souped up one, like the higher trim level, I expect it to go anything between 3.2 all the way to 3.4 million Kenya shillings. That is the highest. That means you're getting the top trim quality, maybe grade 4.5 or grade 5 of the Subaru Outback. And there has to be a limited or a premium edition. That's what you're going to pay, right? Direct competition on the Subaru Outback, you get in the Kenyan market right now, you get around 3 cars. So you can buy the Volvo V90 Cross Country, which looks quite nice and epic. You can buy the Passat All-Track, or you can get your Audi A6 All-Road. Now, all those cars I've mentioned, the only place they excel more is on-road. It means they are cars that are meant to be driven more on the road. But the only car among those that you can beat down and go and join the Mara Nomads and travel the whole Africa and get to see the awesome places that Africa provides as a continent, I will tell you without fear of contradiction that that is the Subaru Outback. It's the only car that has been designed for hard driving, and that is courtesy of the symmetrical all-wheel drive system, the suspension setup that is hardy and lifted to perform that without losing much expense. So let's talk about the clamor for crossover SUVs, because that is where it gets interesting when you plan to buy the Subaru Outback. Now, crossover SUVs, I'm talking about the RAV4, the CX-5, the CRV. Those cars provide something else. It's a tall car, and what you're looking for is ground clearance. But I think at some point they lose the carness in it, because they make you drive like, I don't want to use that word, but it makes you drive more like you're driving a tractor. The sitting position is not as attractive as what you'll get on the Subaru Outback. The Subaru Outback gives you everything that the Forester or the CX-5 or the CRV gives you, plus more. Better room in the interior, it's longer and more practical. It has a commendable and formidable all-wheel drive system. You can take it anywhere without fear. And that is something that baffles me. Why would I buy, for instance, a CX-5 if I can get this? Because a CX-5 will give you an average fuel economy of anything around 12 again all the way to 14 kilometers per liter, unless you're buying a diesel. But if you're not buying a diesel, again, this is the car you need to buy. So I hope this has been an exciting episode of Conversation Kanisa. I've been your host, Ibrahim Toloi, and behind the camera and the entire production team, we have Fabian and Bugu as well, and they have made this review possible. Until next week, see you. Adios. Ciao, ciao.